1. Wounded Knee Massacre, December 29, 1890. On a freezing winter morning in South Dakota, the U.S. Army surrounded a group of Lakota Sioux at Wounded Knee Creek. Most were women, children, and elderly people. The Army was there to disarm them and take them to a reservation. During the weapons search, a shot was fired. Nobody knows who fired first. What happened next was a slaughter. Soldiers opened fire with rifles and rapid-fire Hotchkiss guns. People tried to run but were shot in the back. The guns cut down anyone moving. By the time the shooting stopped, at least 250 Native Americans were dead. Some estimates say 300. Bodies were left frozen in the snow for days. The Army buried them in a mass grave. 20 soldiers received the Medal of Honor for their actions that day. No one was ever punished. This massacre marked the end of the Indian Wars. 2. Philippine-American War atrocities, 1899 to 1902. After the Spanish-American War, the United States took control of the Philippines, but Filipinos wanted independence and fought back. The war that followed was brutal. American soldiers burned entire villages to the ground. They shot civilians suspected of helping rebels. One of the most horrific tactics was called the water cure. Soldiers would force a bamboo tube down a prisoner's throat and pour gallons of water into their stomach until it swelled like a balloon. Then, they would beat or stomp on the stomach to force the water out. This was torture designed to make people talk. General Jacob Smith gave an order to turn one island into a howling wilderness. He told his troops to kill everyone over the age of 10. Estimates say between 200,000 and 1 million Filipinos died during the war, most of them civilians. Some soldiers were court-martialed, but punishments were light. The war ended with American control of the Philippines. 3. Hiroshima and Nagasaki atomic bombs, August 6th and 9th, 1945. On August 6, 1945, an American bomber called the Enola Gay dropped an atomic bomb on Hiroshima, Japan. The bomb exploded with the power of 15,000 tons of dynamite. The city was instantly vaporized. People near the blast were turned to shadows burned into the ground. The heat was so intense, it melted skin. A massive fireball consumed everything. Around 70,000 people died instantly. Tens of thousands more died slowly from radiation poisoning. 3 days later, the U.S. dropped a second atomic bomb on Nagasaki. Another 40,000 people died immediately. The radiation caused cancer, birth defects, and sickness for generations. Japan surrendered 6 days after Nagasaki, ending World War II. The U.S. justified the bombs by saying they saved lives by preventing a land invasion. Critics argue that Japan was already defeated and ready to surrender. No one was punished because it was considered an act of war. 4. Gun Ri Massacre, July 1950. During the Korean War, hundreds of South Korean refugees were fleeing the fighting. They were mostly women, children, and elderly people trying to escape the combat zone. American soldiers ordered them to gather under a railroad bridge near the village of Gun Ri. The refugees thought they would be safe there. Then the shooting started. For 3 days, American soldiers fired machine guns and rifles into the crowd huddled under the bridge. U.S. planes dropped bombs and strafed the area. Survivors described hiding behind bodies and watching children shot in their mothers' arms. Estimates say between 250 and 400 civilians were killed. The soldiers claimed they were ordered to shoot because North Korean troops were hiding among the refugees. For decades, the U.S. military denied it happened. In 2001, President Clinton issued a statement of regret, but stopped short of calling it a massacre. No soldiers were punished. South Korea continues to demand a formal apology. 5. Agent Orange, 1961 to 1971. During the Vietnam War, the U.S. military sprayed millions of gallons of a chemical called Agent Orange over the jungles of Vietnam. The goal was to kill the trees and plants so enemy soldiers had nowhere to hide. It worked. The chemical destroyed forests and farmland, but it also poisoned the people. Agent Orange contained dioxin, one of the most toxic chemicals known to humans. Vietnamese people who were exposed developed cancer, liver damage, and severe skin diseases. Pregnant women gave birth to children with horrific deformities. Babies were born without limbs, with fused fingers, or with holes in their hearts. The effects are still happening today. Grandchildren of people exposed to Agent Orange are being born with disabilities. American soldiers who handled the chemical also got sick. The U.S. government eventually paid compensation to American veterans, but refused to compensate Vietnamese victims. No, One was charged with a crime because it was classified as a military herbicide operation, not a chemical weapon attack. 6. Highway of Death, February 1991. During the Gulf War, Iraqi forces were retreating from Kuwait after the U.S.-led coalition defeated them. Thousands of Iraqi soldiers were driving north on Highway 80, heading back to Iraq. They were no longer fighting. Many had already abandoned their weapons. American planes spotted the massive convoy and attacked. For hours, fighter jets and bombers dropped explosives on the retreating vehicles. The highway turned into a graveyard of twisted metal and burned bodies. Helicopters gunned down soldiers trying to flee on foot. Some were bulldozed into mass graves while still alive. The exact death toll is unknown because bodies were buried quickly, but estimates range from hundreds to several thousand. Journalists who arrived at the scene described it as a turkey shoot. The convoy was completely defenseless. Critics argued that attacking retreating soldiers violated the Geneva Conventions. The U.S. military defended the action, saying the Iraqis were still a legitimate military target until a ceasefire was signed. No one was punished. 7. Abu Ghraib Torture, 2003 to 2004. At Abu Ghraib prison in Iraq, American soldiers tortured and abused Iraqi prisoners. The prisoners were stripped naked and forced into humiliating positions. They were stacked in human pyramids while soldiers took photos and smiled. Dogs were used to terrify them. Some prisoners were beaten, sexually assaulted, and threatened with death. They were kept in stress positions for hours. Sleep deprivation was common. One man was forced to stand on a box with wires attached to his body. He was told if he fell off, he would be electrocuted. The torture continued for months. When photos leaked to the media in 2004, the world was horrified. The images showed American soldiers laughing and giving thumbs up next to brutalized prisoners. Investigations revealed that some techniques were approved by commanders as enhanced interrogation. 11 soldiers were convicted and sent to prison, but most served less than 3 years. High-ranking officers claimed they didn't know what was happening. No generals were punished. 8. Haditha Killings, November 19, 2005. In the Iraqi city of Haditha, a roadside bomb exploded under a U.S. Marine convoy, killing one Marine. Enraged, a group of Marines went on a rampage. They stormed into nearby houses and started executing people. In one home, they killed a man in a wheelchair. In another, they shot a mother holding her baby. They threw grenades into rooms full of families. Children were killed in their beds. An 8-year-old girl survived by pretending to be dead while her parents and siblings were shot around her. In total, 24 Iraqi civilians were murdered, including women, children, and elderly men. The Marines initially claimed the civilians died in the roadside bomb blast. They filed false reports. The truth only came out when an Iraqi human rights worker collected evidence and demanded an investigation. 8 Marines were charged, but most cases were dropped. Only one Marine was convicted and he received no jail time. He was demoted and took a pay cut. Iraqi families received compensation payments. 9. Nisour Square Massacre, September 16, 2007. In downtown Baghdad, a convoy of Blackwater private security contractors was guarding U.S. diplomats. Without warning, the contractors opened fire on civilians in Nisour Square. They were using machine guns and grenade launchers in a crowded intersection. A young medical student was shot in the head while sitting in his car with his mother. She tried to reach for the wheel and was killed too. The car rolled forward and Blackwater contractors riddled it with bullets. People running for cover were gunned down. Parents threw their bodies over their children. The shooting continued for several minutes. When it ended, 17 Iraqi civilians were dead and 20 were wounded. Blackwater claimed they were fired on first, but investigations found no evidence of that. Iraqi police and witnesses said it was an unprovoked massacre. 4 Blackwater contractors were eventually convicted in U.S. courts and sentenced to long prison terms. In 2020, President Trump pardoned all 4. Iraq condemned the pardons as an insult to justice. 10 Maywand district murders, 2010. In Afghanistan, a group of U.S. Army soldiers formed what they called a kill team. They murdered Afghan civilians for sport and collected body parts as trophies. The leader, Staff Sergeant Calvin Gibbs, planned the killings like hunting trips. The soldiers would throw grenades at innocent farmers and then shoot them, claiming self-defense. They planted weapons on the bodies to make it look like combat. In one case, they shot a 15-year-old boy who was working in a field. In another, They killed a religious leader. The soldiers took photos posing with the corpses. They cut off fingers and kept them as souvenirs. One soldier collected a skull. This went on for months until another soldier, Justin Stoner, reported what was happening. The kill team threatened to kill him if he talked, but he went to investigators anyway. 12 soldiers were charged. Gibbs was sentenced to life in prison. Others received sentences ranging from a few months to life. The murders damaged the U.S. military's reputation and fueled Taliban recruitment.